This is my first interview in English. I'm in the Netherlands at the home of Hans Vredevoort. I hope I
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
And Hans is cluster MVP at the Microsoft MVP program, and he is doing some interesting things. But I think you would tell our viewers yourself.
Okay. Right, my name is Hans Vredevoort. I work for a company called Nobel in the Netherlands. I've been there for over 20 years, and when I started in IT about 25 years ago, I think I've only had 4 jobs at different companies. So the last one was very successful. We moved from 11 people to 350 right now, and well, we are dealing with IT infrastructure like servers, storage, virtualization, data protection. And that's just one part of the company, because we also have a part which concentrates on managed services, on application management, and even cloud services in the past year. So, yeah, I'm a cluster MVP. I became one in 2009, so only 2-3 years ago. This is my second year, and I'm hoping to get renewed in next July for the 3rd time. So why a cluster MVP? Because I'm so interested in virtualization and especially hyper-v. Well, probably because I've been in clustering for a very, very long time. Ever since the first beta of clustering appeared in, I think it was 1995 or 96, when NT4 was still or was just released. There was a product called Wolfpack. Wolfpack was the code name for clustering in that year, and I was able to test that combined with the first fiber channel product from HP, or Compaq at the time. Compaq had even a beta product called the fiber channel smart array, or fiber channel array, the P4000 later. Not the P4000 we know today, but back then
Not left hand.
No, not left hand, but it was an array based on SCSI disks, but with a fiber channel interface. So for the first time, I was able to test a cluster based on fiber channel, which was both hardware in beta and the software was beta. So we had lots of fun with that one. It crashed every 5 seconds, I think. We even tried Exchange without even having the enterprise version, because there was no enterprise version. So we had to find all sorts of ways of making the application move from one node to the other. And clustering has been a primary occupation for me for let's say a couple of about 10 years. And the last couple of years, clustering disappeared a bit out of my field until hyper-v came, because hyper-v is one of the products that made clustering really interesting again. Let's say if you have a hyper-v server with 20 or 30 virtual machines and one physical server dies, all 30 virtual machines die. That's where clustering comes in. So 2 or 3 years ago, I started blogging about hyper-v. Hyper-v wasn't even known, and the term wasn't known. I think it was called Viridian. That was the code name for hyper-v. And back in 2006, I wrote my first article on Microsoft virtualization, and my expectations of the future of Microsoft virtualization, because of course VMware was very dominant player in the field. For some customers, I had already done some large virtual server implementations, and when I heard about the first opportunity to test hyper-v, I really tried it out, and I wrote an article, and that's really my first beginning with hyper-v.
Very interesting, but you are a cluster guy, I would say. From the first start of cluster, you are working with the Microsoft cluster. There have been highs and have been lows, you said. And now it's very interesting because it's a part of the Microsoft virtualization strategy. You told if you have more than a handful of VMs and you need more than one host, the cluster is a part that you need for we call it live migration. Maybe you can tell something about live migration and.
Right, yeah. Well, when hyper-v appeared first time, we didn't have live migration, and that was quite a disadvantage compared to other offerings. At the time, we were already able to cluster hyper-v, but then we had some shared storage in the middle. But at that time, only the virtual machine had to be paused first before it could be moved to another host. And that's what we called quick migration. And with the release of R2, there was a new technology based on NTFS storage called cluster shared volumes, which more acts like a kind of filter driver on the file system, which allows you to read and write to a virtual hard disk from more than one host, which was dramatically different from what we are used to, because in the past there was only one owner of the disk, and the other host wouldn't even see the disk. It had to take ownership before it was able to read or write from the disk. But with cluster shared volume, CSV, it was possible to do all the reads and writes to the VHDs, except that we still have the ownership of the disk, which does the so-called metadata changes. So let's say if you want to create a file, if you want to create a directory or rename a directory, that would involve what we call a coordinator node, which is the owner of the disk. So in every hyper-v cluster, there's always an owner of a particular disk. So if you have 3 CSVs, there will be 3 owners, which can be on one physical host, it can also be spread across multiple hosts. But the good thing is that the virtual machines can live on any host and they can read and write via direct I/O directly to the shared storage. So the performance is really huge, and the big advantage is that you can use live migration, because all you have to move is the configuration file.
And the memory.
And the memory, of course, because if you change from one physical host to the other, you have to move also the bit of information that is living inside the virtual machine. So if you do live migration, it's very helpful if you have a very fast network between the hosts. Let's say a minimum of 1 gig, and in my clusters we use technology from HP, which allows us to make the path between the cluster for live migration even bigger, like let's say 4 to 6 gigabit or even 10 gigabit. And in that case you would see a virtual machine move from one host to the other in about 10 seconds.
Okay, very nice. So you told us a little bit about the live migration, the cluster shared volumes in the middle. I would like to change the subject. You have, you and I think 3 more colleagues of you have a very good blog. It's called hyper-v.nu. And I want to know first about your blog, and another thing I want to know, what is .nu, not .nl?
Right. Well, the .nl was gone, so we couldn't take that one. I think it's owned by Microsoft. The .com was also in somebody other's hand, and well, I have to tell you first. I wasn't the one who started hyper-v.nu. .nu is just a suffix from a country where you can just hire websites like the TV. So .nu is also one of those suffixes which allows you to use the hyper-v name in combination with an internet URL. I think it was 3 years ago when Jaap Wesselius, my colleague at hyper-v.nu, started the Dutch user group for hyper-v. He was doing presentations. He was also invited by HP to do presentations there, and it attracted quite a bit of people. So when I was invited there for the first time, and I said, well, I can do a presentation as well. So I started presenting on hyper-v and Virtual Machine Manager and things like that. And at that time I also started my blog, which was part of the blog which Jaap started, hyper-v.nu, and at that time we also had our combined blogs in one location, and some 2 years ago we decided to have a separate blog. So I had my separate blog on Hyper-V. Many people who are interested in Hyper-V will probably have seen it. And Jaap,
I've seen it a lot.
yes, and Jaap had his own. Although Jaap is an exchange MVP, but with a great interest in Hyper-V. So he was blogging every now and then on that subject. But I was the one who was really blogging a lot on the subject. 2 or 3 months ago, we talked to Microsoft, and they wanted to make the community bigger around Hyper-V and Microsoft virtualization. So we talked to some people in the Schiphol, the Amsterdam office, and they said, "Well, what can we do to make it bigger? What can we do to attract more people?" So there were already a couple of other people who were interested in guest blogs or even offering their own content. So we said, well, why don't we aggregate them again and allow everybody with good content to publish through that same media. And we've done that for a couple of months now, and it's going really well. People are going to are finding us now, because most of them were coming to my blog first. So I wrote my final blog about 4 weeks ago, and asked everybody to move to the hyper-v.nu website. Yeah. And that's where you will find 3 other people, Jaap, Peter Noorderijk and Maarten Bijsman. So four Dutch guys who in the beginning were writing in Dutch, like you are writing in German a lot. And I decided to start in English because I thought my public, my readers would be much bigger. And that turned out to be true, because Holland is a small country, and of course we have many people who are interested in Hyper-V, but I see the world as my territory. Okay. So we don't call it the Dutch Hyper-V user group anymore, we just the Hyper-V user group. And if somebody from the United States or from Canada or from Germany wants to write, they're all welcome. And I think the community is there to help other people get to know the products and make themselves acquainted with the technology. And I think we are beginning to succeed in that.